So you're ready to step into the game that captured millions of players starting back in 2004. Classic Fresh World of Warcraft, or Classic Fresh Hardcore version of World of Warcraft. Whether you're a complete newbie or returning after a long break, choosing your first class is a big decision. Let's go ahead and dive into the strengths and weaknesses of each class, and maybe not every little detail, but a general idea of what it's like to play them in Classic Fresh and Hardcore WoW. So as you plan your journey through Classic, keep the Burning Crusade in mind if that's something that interests you. Once that expansion drops, the meta and group compositions are going to shift quite a bit compared to what you're used to in Classic. So it's worth thinking ahead to how your class will fit into the changes down the road, whether you plan just to join the journey to 60 or if you plan on raiding. I'm going to start with one of my personal favorites, the Hunter. A ranged DPS that teams up with their pet that they command. The pet system is one of the coolest features in Classic WoW, and they also have a tracking ability, which is extremely useful for questing, PvP, and farming gold. They're very fun to play, especially for solo content and PvP. Hunters are easy to pick up but can be challenging to master. The ability of timing your attack, managing your pet, and keeping track of ammo and meat for your pet, all things to consider. You don't want to show up to a dungeon or a raid without ammo or arrows, because then you have 39 people that are going to be waiting on you. Hunters are some of the fastest levelers due to their minimal gear requirements and ability like Bestial Wrath and Aspect of the Cheetah. In PvP, Hunters excel at kiting, picking off enemies, and controlling enemies with traps. It will be hard to run from a Hunter unless you're a class like the Druid. Some people that have played Hunter get irritated by not being able to use ranged attacks in the melee range. This is known as the dead zone, but thankfully that gets reduced in the Burning Crusade. While Hunters might fall short in DPS during raids later in Classic WoW, Hunters are always needed for pulling mobs and Trank Shot, which Trank Shot dispels frenzy effects. This makes them indispensable in certain encounters, even if only one or two are brought along. But in Burning Crusade, they become one of the top DPS classes, so they're a solid choice for both Classic and the Burning Crusade. They are one of the best classes for soloing in World of Warcraft. This is also really good for Classic Hardcore. But Hunters need to be careful because if they do skips in dungeons in the raids, their pet could make or break the group with the pet pathing, so you need to be very careful. If you enjoy using your pet and clever tactics to outplay your opponents, the Hunter is a great pick. The Druid. Druids are hybrid characters capable of dealing damage, tanking, and healing. What makes them stand out is their versatility. They have high mobility, self-healing, group utility, and crowd control. Much like Hunters, they excel at leveling thanks to their movement speed, self-healing, and ability to stealth. While Feral DPS and Feral Tank aren't terrible, they're more on the mid-tier side of things compared to the other classes. This makes them weaker in specific roles. They lack a standard resurrection ability, unlike the other healers, so if someone dies in a dungeon, it could take longer to recover. Druids bring some unique abilities to the table, such as Innervate for mana, Fairy Fire, Mark and Gift of the Wild, and Battle Res, aka Rebirth, which that ability also takes a reagent and has a 30-minute cooldown. These abilities make Druids valuable in raids. As their other specs aren't as developed yet, you'll be often expected to heal. Personally, I find that the healing over time spells that Druids have is pretty fun in raids and in PvP. For dungeons, Druids can shine in a Feral Tank role, though they're better suited as an off-tank rather than the main tank to the lack of defensive cooldowns, but this gets updated somewhat in the Burning Crusade. You do also get a Flight Form and instant herbalism picking as a Druid in the TBC expansion. As for balanced Druids in Classic, they're often considered a meme in raids, and most guilds won't even be bringing one. In PvP, Druids are incredibly hard to pin down. Their ability to shapeshift out of roots and polymorphs make them excellent flag carriers in Warsong Gulch, and their survivability is unmatched. As a bonus with playing Druid, they get a free teleport to Moonglade, which acts as a second Hearthstone and gives you easy access to the Northern Kalimdor early on. Druids are also a great choice for hardcore players due to their survivability and versatility, especially when they yell, "Do something!" The Warlock. Warlocks are often fast and fun to level, and they're amazing at soloing difficult enemies, including elites, just like Hunters are. With the right skill, you won't need to rely on groups for elite quests. Warlocks also get a free level 40 mount and have great class quests, which involve hunting down their demons and getting their fiery epic mount, adding extra depth to the class. The caster DPS that specializes in demonic pets, valuable raid debuffs, and damage over time spells. Warlocks can also have a risky playstyle, using health to fuel their mana with certain spells while also relying on soul shards. Managing soul shards means you'll need to farm them before big events like raids or PvP, which can eat up inventory space. A Warlock's utility includes summoning players to the raid, Crusade, creating soul stones to resurrect fallen allies, and crafting hellstones. This can be tedious in Classic since there's no summoning or hellstone altar, but in the Burning Crusade you can create a soul well for your party and summon additional demonic pets in raids. In raids during Classic, Warlocks mostly focus on applying their assigned curses and spamming Shadow Bolt, especially when the mages go fire spec. But for PvP, Warlocks are incredibly strong and are unmatched in 1v1 combat. Warlocks are also a decent choice for hardcore players. Just be careful juggling your health and mana, and be sure not to use a demonic rune when you're low on health. No! The Mage. Known for being a caster DPS with powerful sustained AoE, mages are incredibly fast at leveling, arguably the fastest if you focus on AoE farming. They're the top performing range DPS in Classic and will always have a solid raid spot even in high-end content. Mages are excellent at farming gold. They create portals, food, and water, which are all huge benefits in Classic, saving you both time and money traveling around Azeroth. In raids, mages are relatively simple to play, mostly revolving around maximizing damage through cooldowns and casting. If you go fire spec, you can rival the DPS of the rogues and the warriors with strong single target damage, while also providing sustained AoE. This depends on which raid you are doing also. You might be expected to conjure plenty of food and water for the entire raid and or dungeon groups you come across. But later in TBC, you can create a refreshment table, and the arcane spec plays a role when the tiered armor pieces come into play. For PvP, mages have two popular builds: Frost, which focuses on controlling enemies with the Shatter procs and resetting cooldowns, and Fire, which delivers massive bursts with Pyroblast and Fireball for quick kills. PvP as a mage has a high skill ceiling, but is extremely rewarding once you master it. Mages are also fantastic for hardcore players due to their versatility and survivability. Just be sure not to pull too many mobs. The Rogue. Rogues are top tier DPS in most of Classic, though they get outshined by warriors later on. You can choose between two playstyles, dagger or swords, using poisons or wind fury for horde. Rogues excel at locking down opponents, picking locks, and stealthing, but they rely heavily on cooldowns and combo points, so if you switch between targets or are spotted while stealth, this can disrupt your rotation. Rogues are efficient levelers and can easily avoid PvP situations with stealth, letting you pick your fights and stealth past enemies during questing, or choose to dominate and control the enemy. In raiding, rogues offer strong single target DPS, making them a solid choice for damage. However, the downside is that rogues aren't as desirable for raid groups due to their lack of utility. Poison use is also less effective for horde since Wind Fury is generally better. However, in PvP, rogues are top tier. Mastering a rogue means mastering control and burst damage, making them extremely deadly in most situations and have a very high skill ceiling. Rogues can earn raw gold in dungeons like Blackrock Depths just by pickpocketing enemies or by selling their lockpicking services to other players. Rogues are a great pick for hardcore players as well, thanks to their versatility, gold making potential, and high skill ceiling. The Paladin. A versatile melee DPS, healer, and tank for the Alliance and later on for the Horde and the Burning Crusade. They do have a slower leveling experience, mainly relying on auto attacks and seals until they have hit level 60. While their 1 through 60 grind can be tedious, the payoff is big once you hit max level, especially if you like healing. They also get a bonus with their free mount, just like Warlocks. Raiding as a Paladin in Classic, most guilds will most likely set them to go Holy because they are a very efficient healer with low mana cost and with a high demand for their powerful raid buffs. Ret Paladins are strong in PvP and their cooldowns from their abilities greatly help them dominate the battle. Although like Balanced Druid, Ret Paladins are the meme class for anything related to the specs that they offer. Some people still love the dream though. Paladins can also tank but face many issues and lack a taunt, so be careful in tougher content. This changes greatly in TBC though, as the expansion will make them much stronger, adding a taunt and further refining their tanking role. Overall, Paladins are also a solid choice for Classic players and hardcore players both, due to their utility, healing, and strong in-game value. The Priest. A strong caster DPS in PvP and a top tier healer in Classic WoW. Priests are excellent and have a smooth time leveling, especially leveling as Shadow Priest with abilities like Spirit Tap for mana regen and the Priest Shield and using a wand, making it easy to defeat enemies. In PvP, Priests are notorious for dotting their enemies, having powerful debuffs, and they have a Dispel ability that can strip enemy buffs, which can be game-changing in their favor, especially when it comes to world buffs. Priests are often considered as the best healers in Classic, providing crucial buffs like Power Word Fortitude and the Spirit buff. There are multiple healing builds, including the Power Infusion build, which focuses on boosting caster raid DPS rather than pure healing. They are definitely the go-to for top healing meters and critical support. Shadow Spec struggles with mana until TBC when they become the mana battery for the raid. Priests are also a fantastic choice for hardcore players due to their versatility, healing power, and sustainability. The Shaman. Hybrid support class available to the Horde, available to the Alliance and TBC as well. Shamans offer powerful AoE healing and melee buffs. One of the Shaman's standout features is their totem system, with totems being elements of earth, fire, air, and water. The most iconic of these is the Wind Fury totem, which delivers high damage potential. Melee classes love the Wind Fury totem and makes raids in dungeons like Scarlet Monastery especially satisfying. As a shaman, you'll often be tasked with dropping totems. Most shamans will stick with the enhancement or elemental specs until high levels before switching to restoration at endgame. Shamans are highly desirable in raids for their strong support, buffs, and utility. They are often brought in to ensure every group benefits from the right totems. Rosto shamans are the highest priority for raiding and are super efficient at AoE healing with Chain Heal, allowing them to quickly restore large amounts of health across multiple targets. While Classic primarily sees shamans in the restoration role, they'll eventually unlock additional totems and bloodlust in TBC, boosting their effectiveness with other roles as well. Shamans also have a unique utility abilities like Reincarnation, which is a self-resurrect, and Astral Recall, which is an additional Hearthstone for convenience. Water Walking and Water Breathing are niche abilities that can come in handy for world PvP. Shamans will also definitely be using their Purge ability to remove buffs from enemies. Shamans are also a solid choice for hardcore players. And last but not least, the Warrior. Warriors truly reign as the top choice in Classic WoW, known for delivering the highest single target DPS and very explosive AoE damage. They also generate the most threat, making them the go-to tank in the game. So be prepared to tank dungeons, manage threat, and use macros to quickly switch to defensive stance with a shield when needed. In raids, stacking additional warriors is always the best option. If there's space, you really can't go wrong with bringing more warriors. While warriors aren't the best gold farmer and also slow levelers, they're very satisfying to play because the gear is so impactful. Warriors are also in demand for dungeon groups, and you can always level quickly with cleave groups. They have amazing scaling potential. In PvP, warriors shine in group content, especially when they're paired with a healer. On their own, they kind of struggle a little bit. All in all, warriors are a solid pick, consistently in demand for both high DPS and tanking. While they might not be the easiest choice for solo play and hardcore content, they do excel in all aspects of the game for players who enjoy a challenge. I tried to cover as much as I could in this guide, and I'm sure I've missed something, but I hope this video helps you decide more on your class of choice for Classic Fresh going into the Burning Crusade and also hardcore. Blizzard did also just announce that Classic Fresh Anniversary Realms will have instant mail, removal of the buff debuff limit, and an LFG tool to help players group up with each other. There will be transfers from hardcore to normal realms if you die, and dual spec will be enabled at a later date. So some of those things could also help you choose the class that you want to play in Classic Fresh. If I missed anything important, leave a comment and I'll update it in the pinned response. I hope you all have fun and enjoy playing the best game in the world. And until next time, later.